Myco TV.
La nuit augmente. Pockets of silence. The intervention of sound would be any form being formal, whether that shape is messy or clean. I'm look, surveillance, tender moment. They flow together, half clean, half dirty, half clean and muddy. Let's go for a swim. Would you like an apricot? Ear in hand. Do you mind putting some cream on my back? Somebody on the tip of my fingers. Ear in tongue, written for rain, translates marches. Love this day. Suddenly lavender, translating breaks. Il y a un peu plus de vent, l'eau a cru retrouver son lit. How does she know how she looks isn't surveilling. Book hand, wind mouth. Breast bed, table letter, being away. La nuit augmente for the rest of the day. Nothing wins and like absent. Ignore measure, ignore doors, ignore messages, ignore cute, word telling. Nothing wins and like absent. Think of silent, but silence. As M says, grain. T'as un grain. In which language does not crazy means lazy? Sourd de là. ne passe plus au beau milieu de la société, passe au beau milieu de chacune. Dans chaque milieu, ce qui déjà lui échappe. Follow the thought and flight. Déjà là, déjà en mouvement, déjà échappe. When you say have, I hear. Over our wonder. Différentes façons de voir les choses selon là où on se trouve. Entre désir et immobilité. Désir is moving. Tremblant pourtant sans arrêt. Ajouter du jaune au ciel and I come next. Qu'elle était en vie ou qu'elle était vivante. Perhaps alive or living. Un petit bout d'avant, je vais commencer sur la carcasse de la vache. À part ça, quelques modes de terre. Allez mourir dans le désert. Allez mourir de rire. Painting the desert in your head. Peindre le désert dans sa tête, tu prêches solo. Prêcher dans le désert. C'était when I learned to stop thinking. Quand j'apprendrai à arrêter de penser. Aucune idée moi-même. Dear reader, tu aimes aussi regarder des vidéos de mug meals? Stop thinking. Nothing went and like absent. On peut garder la fourche où la route se sépare en deux. Carcasse à demi dévorée d'une vache, un chemin le long des côtes, lit desséché de rivières, and more. Et plus. I think a time, once, she is that space of years and 9 awake. Chat and walks from home to the station, from the station home. Words name matter, they're always different. I call people, see friends, always different. Sometimes I go and see a show, and feel I tell, I'll get a printer, print pictures, put them together in a notebook, 1 or 2 images per page. Photographs taken with my phone and screenshots. I'd like. The body alone doesn't count for much. You tell me easy, feeling alert yet relaxed. Always my heart beats other. Heart beats a you tell me. My knees the end of me, knees up the edge of me, roots and movement see me in the winter of another guest at the retreat. Both her life and work. Would you take yes or no for an answer? Best people. And 2 girls retrieving circumstances. Dormant. I write about your work, morning work, then leave 6:30 p.m. Work, I write thinking about work that truly makes me feel fabulous. Work of art, the work of friends and poetry. Could I thank you say creeps. I like watching a film at 2 in the afternoon, small window on my screen. It's moving, no full screen. At this moment I'm sitting at the table, holding, learning touch and vision. My stomach goes, resemble thinking. See the people all over, see water. Work meeting. Almost midnight. One says, let's find space where we are not foreign. It's also zones of circulation. Mind me, news edit. Withdrawal implies acts of contestation from which collective energy emerges. Energy often accompanied by an awareness of the difficulties of reforming institutional apparatuses from within. Energy generating a progressive abandonment of traditional private and public institutions. Productive withdrawal aims at setting up new self-organized hybrid institutions and a protest movement taking the place of traditional institutions in the areas most ravaged by them. Examples of such hybrid forms can be found in popular education, independent media, anarchist cooperatives, healthcare. These experiments are generally the catalyst for the gradual redesign of institutions. These transitions never take place thanks to the charity of the privileged classes, but only because of the determination and efforts of the grassroots communities of a given field. For the first time in France, I have the feeling that such conditions are potentially met around the Art en Grève movement that emerged in the wake of the call to strike against the pension reform. If, at the onset, This movement took the form of a sectorial struggle with a strong reference to art. Gradually, new components within the movement allowed it to go well beyond its initial framework. In Paris, the unprecedented reconciliation between activists from different cultural fields has made it possible to broaden the spectrum of demands and political cultures. Décoloniser les arts, 343 racisés, la permanence, l'œuvrière, l'abuse, and activists not belonging to any collective from the fields of dance, theatre, visual arts, music, literature, cinema, photography, art school students, and museum tenants. Very quickly, alliances with exogenous groups in the art world, such as Collectif Place des Fêtes, Comité de Libération et d'Autonomie Queer, and other formations, cut short endogenous demands directed exclusively at cultural institutions. This gave rise to the formation of new entities such as Aranguin, Coordination décoloniale, and also support for other struggles, as the striking chambermaids of the Ibis Clichy-Batignolles Hotel. Assembly practice, calls for boycotts, protest marches, vernissage sabotaging, self-investigations, working groups, self-defense groups, all these ingredients are now mobilized within the movement, allowing us to envision a transformation towards a productive withdrawal and the constitution of hybrid institutions. Productive withdrawal, gradual dismantling. On dit vue dégagée, progressivement, confortablement, brutalement, éteint ce que nous aurions pu vivre autrement, éteint ce que nous aurions pu vivre autrement contre l'État, de danger, de complexité, d'opacité, d'immédiateté, de toucher. Nothing went and like absent. Ignore measure, ignore dose, ignore messages. J'avais prévu toute autre chose. Je ne peux pas parler anglais, j'ai besoin de me cacher, de me rendre moins publique, moins sujette, moins citoyenne. C'est quoi le plan? Nuitamment, can you say nightly? False.
Tigetoy's sister had given us 2 sterile eggs. Tigetoy gave one to my mother, brother and sisters.
The eggs prolonged life, prolonged vigor.
She simply came in, climbed onto one of her special couches, and called me over to keep her warm. It was impossible to be formal with her while lying against her and hearing her complain, as usual, that I was too skinny.
There were only a few drops left in the now shrunken, elastic shell, but she squeezed them out, swallowed them, and after a few moments, some of the lines of tension began to smooth from her face. "It's good," she whispered. "Sometime I forget how good it is."
Only she and her political faction stood between us and the hordes who did not understand why there was a preserve. Why any Terran could not be courted, paid, drafted, in some way made available to them.
She parceled us out to the desperate and sold us to the rich and powerful for their political support. Thus, we were necessities, status symbols, and an independent people. She overthrew the joining of families, putting an end to the final remnants of the earlier system of breaking up Terran families to suit impatient clique.
Did you think I would sell him for eggs? For long life? My son? Not for anything, Tigetoy said, stroking my mother's shoulders, toying with her long graying hair.
The preserve was hers. By the time she came back to my mother to collect what she probably saw as her just reward for her hard work.
I'm told I was first caged within Tigetoy's many limbs, only 3 minutes after my birth. A few days later, I was given my first taste of egg.
Tigetoy whipped her 3 meters of body off her couch, towards the door, and out at full speed. She had bones, ribs, a long spine, a skull, 4 sets of limb bones per segment. But when she moved that way, twisting, hurling herself into controlled folds, landing, running, she seemed not only boneless, but aquatic, something swimming through the air as though it were water.
Back when the Tlick saw us as not much more than convenient, big, warm-blooded animals, they would pen several of us together, male and female, and feed us only eggs.
She let her limbs begin to move again, lifting the man and pulling his shirt over his head. "You don't want to see this," she said. "It will be hard. I can't help this man the way his slick could."
She knocked me across the room. Her toll was an efficient weapon, whether she exposed the sting or not.
"I've stung you as much as I dare for now," she told him. "When this is over, I'll sting you to sleep, and you won't hurt anymore." "Please," the man begged, "wait." "There's no more time, Bram. I'll sting you as soon as it's over. When Tikot Gif arrives, she'll give you eggs to help you heal. It will be over soon,
Lomas's entire body stiffened under Tigatoy's claw, though she merely rested it against him as she wound the rear section of her body around his legs. He might break my grip, but he would not break hers. He wept helplessly as she used his pants to tie his hands, then pushed his hands above his head so that I could kneel on the cloth between them and pin them in place. She rolled up his shirt and gave it to him to bite down on, and she opened him.
Tigatoy seemed to pay no attention as she lengthened and deepened the cut, now and then pausing to lick away the blood. His blood vessels contracted, reacting to the chemistry of her saliva, and the bleeding slowed.
She found the first grub. It was fat and deep red with his blood, both inside and out. It had already eaten its own egg, but apparently had not yet begun to eat its host. At this stage, it would eat any flesh except its mother's. Let alone, it would have gone on excreting the poisons that had both sickened and alerted Lomas. Eventually, it would have begun to eat.
It was limbless and boneless at this stage, perhaps 15 centimeters long and too thick, blind and slimy with blood. It was like a large worm.
It was worse than finding something dead, rotting, and filled with tiny animal grubs. And it was far worse than any drawing or diagram.
I had been told all my life that this was a good and necessary thing Tlik and Terran did together, a kind of birth. I had believed it until now. I knew birth was painful and bloody, no matter what. But this was something else, something worse, and I wasn't ready to see it. Maybe I never would be. Yet I could not see it. Closing my eyes didn't help.
"Don't give me one of her looks," he said. "You're not her. You're just her property."
Then he began running away, until he realized there was no away. Not in the preserve. Certainly not outside.
Yeah, stupid. Running inside the preserve, running in a cage.
She made a lot of little clicking sounds when she walked on bare floor, each limb clinking in succession as it touched down, waves of little clicks. She came to the table, raised the front half of her body above it, and surged onto it. Sometimes she moved so smoothly, she seemed to flow like water itself. She coiled herself into a small heel in the middle of the table and looked at me.
"I don't want to be a host animal," I said. "Not even yours." It took her a long time to answer. "We use almost no host animals these days," she said. "You know that. You use us. We do. We wait long years for you and teach you and join our families to yours." She moved restlessly. "You know, you aren't animals to us."
It will be easier for Hoa. She has always expected to carry other lives inside her. Human lives. Human young, who should someday drink at her breast, not at her veins.
Leave it here, I repeated. If we're not your animals, if these are adult things, accept the risk. There is risk, Gatoy, in dealing with a partner.
She flowed around me and into my bedroom. I found her waiting on the couch we shared. There was nothing in Oa's room that she could have used. She would have done it to Hoa on the floor.
Yet I undressed and lay down beside her. I knew what to do, what to expect. I had been told all my life. I felt a familiar sting, narcotic, mildly pleasant. Then the blind probing of her ovipositor. The puncture was painless, easy. So easy going in. She undulated slowly against me, her muscles forcing the egg from her body into mine.
Yes, I leaned my forehead against her. She was cool velvet, deceptively soft. And to keep you from myself, I said. It was so. I didn't understand it, but it was so.
Not protected, I said. Shown. Shown when we're young kids. And shown more than once. Gatoy, no Terran ever sees a bird that goes right. All we see is Ntlik, pain and terror and maybe death.
The small amount of fluid that came into me with her egg relaxed me as completely as a sterile eggs would have, so that I could remember the rifle in my hands and my feelings of fear and revulsion, anger and despair. I could remember the feelings without reviving them. I could talk about them.
Green, red, orange and yellow.
There had been little color in her world since her capture. Her own skin, her blood. Within the pale walls of her prison, that was all. Everything else was some shade of white or grey. Even her food had been colorless. Now, here was color and what appeared to be sunlight. There was space, vast space.
The hole in the wall widened, as though flesh ripping aside, slowly writhing. She was both fascinated and repelled. "Is it alive?" she asked.
Yes, he said.
She had beaten it, kicked it, clawed it, tried to bite it. It had been smooth, tough, impenetrable, but slightly given, like bed and table. It had felt like plastic, cool beneath her hands.
What is it? She asked.
Flesh. More like mine than yours. It's the ship.
You're kidding. Your ship is alive.
Yes. Come out.
The hole in the wall had grown large enough for them to step through. He ducked his head and took the necessary step. She started to follow him, then stopped. There was so much space out there. She had seen were thin, hair-like leaves and round, coconut-sized fruit, apparently in different stages of development. All hung from great branches that overshadowed the next exit. Beyond them was a broad, open field with scattered trees, impossibly huge trees, distant hills, and a bright, sunless ivory sky.
There was enough strangeness to the trees and the sky to stop her from imagining that she was on Earth. There were people moving around in the distance, and they were black. German shepherd-sized animals that were too far away for her to see them clearly. Though even in the distance the animals seemed to have too many legs. 6, 10. The creatures seemed to be grazing.
Lilith, come out, Jatya said. She took a step backward, away from all the alien vastness. The isolation room that she had hated for so long suddenly seemed safe and comforting. Back into your cage, Lilith, Jatya asked softly. Outside, she stood beside him and drew a long, shuddering breath. She turned her head, looked at the room, then turned away quickly, resisting an impulse to flee back to it. He took her hand and led her away.
When she looked back a second time, the hole was closing. Then she could see that what she had come out of was actually a huge tree.
Its lower limbs were heavily laden with fruit. The rest of it looked almost ordinary except for its size. How tall was it? How much of it served as a building?
Was everything in that room alive?
Everything except some of the visible plumbing fixture. Even the food you ate was produced from the fruit of one of the branches growing outside. It was designed to meet your nutritional needs.
And to taste like cotton and paste, she muttered. I hope I won't have to eat any more of that stuff.
You won't, but it's kept you very healthy. Your diet in particular encouraged your body not to grow cancers, while your genetic inclination to grow them was corrected.
It has been corrected then?
Yes. Correcting genes have been inserted into your cells, and your cells have accepted and replicated them. Now you won't grow cancers by accident.
Will you send me back to Earth?
You couldn't survive there now, especially not alone.
And then it occurred to her that she and the others like her would be guinea pigs.
Wild, forests, mountains, deserts, plains, great oceans. It's a rich world, clean of dangerous radiation in most places. The greatest diversity of animal life is in the seas, but there are a number of small animals thriving on land. Insects, worms, amphibians, reptiles, small mammals. There is no doubt your people can live there.
When?
That will not be hurried. You have a very long life ahead of you, Lilith. We've already armed you against the deadlier microorganisms. Beyond that, you'll have to fend for yourself, avoiding poisonous plants and animals and creating what you need. We know more of what you're capable of than you do.
Or they thought they did, if they really had 250 years to study.
We've strengthened your immune system, increased your resistance to disease in general.
How? Something else done to our genes?
He said nothing. She let the silence lengthen until she was certain he would not answer. This was one more thing they had done to her body without her consent, and supposedly for her own good. We used to treat animals that way, she muttered bitterly. We did things to them. inoculations, surgery, isolation, all for their own good. We wanted them healthy and protected, sometimes so we could eat them later.
Hi. Okay, so my name's Holly, and I'm gonna do a playthrough of this game that I made. I'm gonna try and put the. Is that better? Yeah. So I'm just gonna play through it and kind of talk you through some of the story and some of the things that I was thinking about when I was making it. So I'm doing this through Zoom because so I'm just, if you just give me a second. Okay. The one thing I should say is that one thing I'm going to say is that I guess you're not getting any of the music or the sound when I do it this way. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, there's not actually loads of sound in it. This is available to download as well if you have a PC. Okay. So this was originally based on a few kind of converging projects that I was doing. So I was trying to write this young adults novel. I guess I still am, but it's a little bit on pause. But one of the scenes is like the central character is kind of she's grown up in this dome and she has to leave, and on the outskirts of the dome she comes to a kind of market, this kind of fringe market I suppose, and sites, but kind of went a bit deeper into this, and I also kind of based this character is kind of on a specific journey in this place now, and I kind of really based it on a summer that I had last year that kind of I'd written this, like tried to write this kind of create your own adventure story. I'd kind of made it as a physical thing in the space. I created these signs and clothing that you'd kind of traveled around. This is separate from the book. This is like an installation, and so I kind of tried to take that real life sculptures and journey that I'd created and bring it into the game space and kind of situated it in that desert world. So you'll see as you explore the space, there'll be signs like that you read. You don't need this context. I'm just giving it to you now. I don't know why. So yeah, I'll just take you through it, and I'll read the signs out loud as we go, and I'll just try and, like, if I feel like there's like extra bits of information that I want to share, I will. Okay, so yeah, the game opens like this. You come to this sign. You spend a lot of time on the app that identifies plants from photos you upload to it. You are trying to figure out what this weed is that grows everywhere here, that has small pointy green and red leaves and little pink flowers. You have started to have dreams about geese, even though you usually don't remember your dreams. You got sent this podcast called This Jungian Life, and you don't remember what geese symbolize, but you remember it's good. You continue walking. So the buildings on this map you can accidentally. So this is a dormitory. It's got like a nice blue carpet and like lots of flowers. And kind of this is like a food area if people want to make food, and like a few dressing tables and like books, just like personal stuff. That's like the sleeping tent. There's not that much to see there. I don't know if that's and then let's keep walking. There's 2 mountains and a little water bit there. Then you go I made this game with RPG Maker, which is really, I really recommend it. So obviously you can tell a lot of these are like used sprites or used textures from that come as default, which I really like using, but I did add some of my own things in, like these ants. You are in your tent and you can see through the fabric that there is a line of ants that goes over the top of the tent above your head and down the other side. You are nervous of them finding a way under the fabric and inside. You decide to follow them. You turn right because the sun is in your eyes. And you can't walk on this red lava, just on this pier with the flowers on the side. Oh yeah, and like obviously I have like edited quite a lot of the default objects, like the sign and this pier. I kind of half ones you get given, and I like change them, added the flowers, change the colors or customize them. Obviously I made this tower, so this is like a water area with a waterfall and a rapid. And then yeah, just look at these. I took over this kind of allotment last year that had been abandoned, and it was full of weeds, and it was full of these really specific, and ants, full of weeds and ants, but like very, I'm pointing at the screen, obviously you can't see, but like lots of these red and green weeds. They look a bit like this. They're still there. I mean, I'm endlessly weeding them, but kind of under control. Like they're very beautiful, but they take up a lot of space. Everywhere you go, you see crows and you feel comforted by the consistency. You remember when your friend took you to see the ravens. You swam in the waterfall that day, and the water was red on the dashboard, and the water was red on the dashboard. I did actually write these myself, but I'm having to use a stool as a desk. It's a little bit far away. On the dashboard of your car, you have a row of 10 shells and 2 cherry chubba chubs wrappers and an empty cassette box. It rains every day, but you are getting used to it and you carry on driving. And then this vehicle appears, which is loosely based on my own car, a Ford, a red orange Ford. Then this moves. Oh, trying to get out of the car. Oh, there we go. Okay. And then next, we come to this. This is based on a life-size dome that I built a while ago. That's orange, called Orange World, which is kind of situated in a similar kind of utopian. It's kind of set in a similar world or space to this, but probably not in this particular locality. Okay. Oh, sorry. So yeah, this is another space. There's a sign. On your windowsill sits a pot of red flowers you bought in the end of season sale. They mostly dead now, but there is a cluster of new flowers that pushes up against the window. You stop doing the washing up straight away and hope this is a good sign. A small cluster of fruit flies hovers above the dirty plates. You are wearing a jumper your friend gave you because he was moving away. You realize now how many bugs there are in the city, and follow the bugs and head outside. And I will head outside. So we've mostly explored all the spaces that you can visit. This is the last one here. Let's go around to it on this side of the river, then we can cross the river. Look, sorry. So there's a few different things here. Go inside this one. This is like a sauna, as you can probably see. It has like hot side and cold side, and then some fires and buckets of waters, and then some seats at the back. So that's a warm room, and then after you've been in the warm room, sauna, this is the cold room. This has got some snow, it's got some seats in, and then like a big pool. And then up there, so after you come out of the pool, you could want to sit by the fire. I guess both spaces include hot and cold areas. And then there's a sign here. Your relationships always end in spring. I'm just moving it a bit closer because I can't really read. Your relationships always end in the spring. You go to swim in the river on May Day because of the storm, and the water is muddy and there are empty plastic bottles floating, but it is refreshing. You wonder if there's a good book about invisibility you should read. You continue your journey down the river. It's May now, a year later from when I swam in the river. Okay, so I just crossed that bridge. So this space, I'll come back to in a minute. This space, I guess I specifically built a bit more around my garden, much bigger, but I also am growing, especially, and last year was growing some things like cabbage and parsnip and turnip and strawberries and spinach and beans. And I have a little seating spot like this with a fire. And last year at my allotments there was like a scarecrow making competition, and everyone had scarecrows everywhere and some like really scary ones. So I put a few scarecrows in, pink scarecrows. You arrive at your allotment and pigeons have eaten your seedlings. South Hill is growing everywhere and you like it. It's replaced the pointy weed with the pink flowers you can't identify. Your friend calls you, and when you ask, she tells you her favourite weed is herb robert. You put the dried flowers your ex-girlfriend picked into an empty Orangina bottle. Your compost bin is crawling with ants, and you're not sure if this is a problem or not. You continue with your journey. I still have so many ants in my compost. It's really amazing. And then I guess here I wanted to create like a more interior space where maybe you'd grow more unusual things, like kind of weird fungus or mushrooms. Did have some kind of crystals growing in here before, but also I felt like maybe this is where this is maybe someone who's found a use for these pink weed flowers, and they've kind of started to actually farm them in a controlled way. I don't know. So this is the last building on the site, I think. Let me just check. Yeah. So this one is really, pretty tightly packed. This is again this kind of similar orange tent than the one I was describing before. I actually had a picture of it, but I can't find it. Can't see it. So this has got about, and I don't know if you can hear them. I guess you can't hear the sound, but really nice music. So yeah, it's kind of coming to the end of the journey, really. It's not a big world, it's kind of a small space. I kind of wanted to I wanted to make something that was kind of easy to navigate, wasn't this kind of extensive play that you were on for a long time. Not that I don't love games like that a lot, but yeah, this was kind of small world I wanted to visit, and I wanted it to kind of be based around these series of signs. Yeah, so maybe I just think of which is a good tent to end it in. What was this one again? Oh yeah, maybe I should end it at the beds. Okay, let me stop. Thank you for watching all the way through.
Myco TV.